Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Ryan.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. We're back. It's been a little while. We've just been enjoying ourselves, taking some much-needed respite from the world and from the world of Star Trek Discovery / Star Trek in general, I guess. It's
Unless it was for Patreon. 'cause we
unless you're on
checked.
that Patreon, then you can check out our shit on there, YumYumPod on the Patreon. But this is us coming back, season 1. We wrap that up. Our rewatch of that. Rewatch being the important word. Because we've seen all these stuff, but we're rewatching it. But what's this? We're doing the short treks for season 1's short treks, or the first 4 short treks that came out between the first season and the second season of Discovery. We're getting closer to the yum yum factor, of course. Yum yum, because famous line of dialogue, yum yum. The short treks, Rachel, could you kind of describe what the short treks are for those who are not as familiar with having seen these? Because I'm just going to say, like, rewatch factor, this is my first time ever watching any of these short treks because I didn't know they existed till well after season 2 had finished.
These episodes are essentially just mini snippets that provide extra context or background and fill in certain gaps.
I think what I loved was the idea of using them to experiment with different tones and different styles and start pushing at the boundaries of what Star Trek feels like it can be. So whereas there's always been humor on Star Trek, but there's never been a straight up outright comedy.
You idiot.
Do you want me to give a synopsis for each of them or just say the titles?
Let's just go titles and what we got from them as our synopsis first. So you can tell us what you got from Runaway. So Runaway, first short trek. What was Runaway about, Rachel?
Tilly meets an alien and makes a friend.
That's the episode of short treks. So the second one, what we don't need... Calypso. No, we'll talk about Runaway first. So... Runaway, this was the one that I was kind of the most keen on seeing.
You were most aware of what this one was, I think.
I knew what it was about, but I was very keen on having seen it because just to go further into the fact I didn't know short treks existed. You knew they existed. You've seen 1 or 2 of these, whether it's from this batch or the next one, but you've seen some. I haven't. I didn't know they existed till well after season 2 had happened. Because here in Australia, we didn't get the heavy or aggressive marketing towards them. Star Trek Discovery here in Australia gets distributed on Netflix. And Netflix advertises, here's Star Trek. But when it comes to these type of things, these little short treks, these little episodes, these little bonus things are hidden in the feature of trailers and more. They're not their own little show that you can watch. They're a part of a section on Netflix that rarely anyone delves into looking at, especially just a casual viewer. I didn't know this existed at all, but once I heard about it, I heard Runaway was the first one. Tilly meets an alien friend. In season 2 of Discovery, one of the complaints I had when I was watching it was, this random alien chick turns up and Tilly and her are like best friends, and it felt like the audience was supposed to know who she was. And I didn't know who the hell she was because I hadn't seen this short trek because it wasn't marketed here for me to know that I could watch it.
But if we were true fans, we would have hunted it down and known about it, Ryan.
CBS did a better job. No, but I didn't know about the Runaway. So when I watched Discovery season 2, this crazy character who felt completely out of left field came in with this context that I didn't have, and at the time I assumed that it was just poor writing on the show's part, that the show was just very lazy. But now I've seen Runaway, and it was my least favorite short trek out of the whole bunch. I did not get anything out of this other than, so this Poe character, she felt, and again, we'll see in the rewatch, she felt different than how I remembered her in the actual episodes of Discovery later. Like, she's a weird wild animal creature, yet she's from a very like civil. I don't know what she is, honestly. Like, she's running around making growling noises. She's like ripping up all the stuff in the cafeteria area. Like, she's a wild animal that's been let loose. And then she is a person from a civilization. She's going to be a queen. She's like a super smart scientist and engineer. And yet she was running around growling and making animalistic type decisions. Like, I just didn't understand what she was supposed to be in this one. In the other ones, I didn't know who she was, but I kind of understood what she was. But in my recollection of those later episodes, she didn't come across like a weird kind of, I guess, cave person, Neanderthal, animalistic type race like she did in this. It was very bizarre.
It was made worse by the sound effects and the sound mixing in that, particularly in that moment in the cafeteria.
Lots of weird little growls and clicks that felt artificial. I don't know why they made her so animalistic to begin with at all. It doesn't feel representative of her character in this actual short trek and from my recollections of her later on. Sure, she's a little wild and rambunctious and a bit quirky, but she came across for the first half of this as if she was the creature of the week type monster. And it didn't really line up in the way that it did. And it's a bait and switch, right? That's the whole point. They want to bait us into thinking, oh, it's a monster. And then, it's actually a civilized person. And that could work, but at the same time, it doesn't in this regard, because when I think about the logistics of her throwing all the furniture around and growling and prowling around on all fours and all this kind of crazy stuff, I'm just going, why did she do that in the first place?
Also,
because she's a normal person who on purposely smuggled herself aboard the Discovery to run away from home. It's not as if she was a wild creature that got bundled up and was scared. She's a smart individual that's fully aware. So was that just her doing prank lols?
Yeah, I guess so. Because like when she was being extra snarky and sarcastic when Tilly got the universal translator working.
Yeah, and boy, this runaway one did not work for me, because it, like, I don't know, it just felt like this should have been a B story in an actual episode of Discovery where you have more of it, but on its own, isolated on its own, it felt a little weak and stiff. You kept commenting, oh, that was very stiff, especially the mother's acting.
Yeah, that part where it was just like, there is like, you just got the feeling that neither actress saw anything of the other's performance.
No.
Like the actress of Tilly never never met the woman that played her mother.
They weren't playing against each other in real life, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like they met or they were on set or they got to have a conversation about that scene. Because they're both playing it
very differently.
Yeah. And it just, like, it doesn't
gel.
It doesn't gel. And you can have scenes where the actresses are playing off each other in that way where it's like they're very distinct and
very different.
Building that idea of Tilly is not like her mother or doesn't appreciate
and her mother doesn't actually appreciate Tilly for who she is, but she's holding on to who she used to be. And also her mum's a snooty bitch who will say to her, remember that one time when you were 4 years old and you fell over? We don't want that again at the cadet training. It embarrassed me so much.
but your stepsister.
I think also it stands out as being really awkward in juxtaposition to the next few short treks where you have characters interacting with just a voice, just like a same thing, a hologram. This stuff where it was better demonstrated, better executed in those. I think it's just maybe a matter of direction, but yeah, Runaway, you really got annoyed with this one.
I
You
did.
were really groaning and moaning and not enjoying yourself. Although it was my least favorite short trek, it didn't garner much of an anger or hatred response. More just, this felt like leftovers that they gave us.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like this was going to be a story plot point in an episode, but it didn't feel appropriate, so they just cobbled it together and threw it at us. And that's how I felt.
It doesn't fit well. And I think one of the issues that I have with it is the pacing. Because that issue makes it feel even more like it was meant to be a B plot. That's what it feels like to me, because it has those moments where it feels like, and that's where they would cut to the A plot, and this is where we rejoin Tilly on her adventure, but it's all Tilly all the time.
She gets an arc, she gets to learn a lesson, it all works, and since they're all short stories, you could make the statement of all of them feel like a B story in another story episode, but we'll talk about it when we get to the next one and the one after and the one after that, but I feel like the other three in these short treks felt stronger in the idea that they were a short story of their own, and we were just getting to watch a short story, while this did feel like a dropped B plot from a main episode. And maybe it would work better in that regard with the pacing of it, but on its own, isolated, it's a little disappointing. Like, imagine if we watched just the isolated scenes of a B plot from a Next Gen episode, and you just go, all right, cool, like, yeah, but we need that A plot there sometimes too.
There was a hormonal space rabbit. He escaped from the lab, and then he got loose in here. He's got mood swings.
It was filled with terrible lines.
I did write some of them down.
My favorite is because Sugar is awesome.
Yeah, well,
classic Tilly. Tilly was full
Sugar
Tilly.
is
like,
awesome.
This is one that tests you on if you like Tilly. Like, if you weren't sure if you like Tilly, if you weren't sure about it, like after the first season, you were still like, I don't know, sometimes she drives me nuts, sometimes I find her excellent. You should watch this one to see how you really feel about Tilly, because it's the height of both of those extremes. I found her compelling at points. I felt sorry for her. I felt she played that quirky, anxiety-ridden personality really well. But at other times, the character just felt really, really too much and too alienating and too much like a writer writing a character and not me watching it and observing. It felt like here. Tilly did have a line where it was very similar to my character flaw is. She had some weird line that was like, I can't remember. It was something about like, I subdued the alien, the intruder, and blah blah. And it felt like, what the hell was that?
And how did you subdue the alien presence, Ensign Tilly?
This one felt like it was a series of big blocks of dialogue and text. And I feel like this short trek atmosphere could really lend to lots of visual storytelling, which Calypso did very well.
I had a moment very early on, and I think it may have been within the first minute of this one, which is I was just really thrown off by something, and it was them announcing Shift 5 has ended. Decontamination will begin. All non-essential, please. Well, non-essential personnel, please.
It's so that
leave.
they could have the ship empty.
So that they had, but they had to tell us. They couldn't show us.
Well,
they couldn't show us everybody leaving, and it's clearly the end of their shift.
Rachel.
Because I've never heard that announcement in any other Star Trek.
Well, this is them introducing that announcement because it's a prequel, Rachel.
Being like, Shift 5 has ended. Everybody, please know that Shift 5.
It's just so that it's just so that you, the audience, don't question that this was obviously done on the cheap because they couldn't afford all the stuff. So it's a bottle thing, right? Like, all the empty sets, all this. It made sense in the second one, Calypso, because of what that story was about. That one was tailored for the whole entire story for it to be like this. Well, this one, it felt like they needed to throw in a reason as to why the ship is empty. That one, that was a part of the actual story, even though it's not fully resolved. It's still a part of that actual story.
Yeah.
This one is just the story can happen, nothing else.
Yeah, I know why, and I found it amusing to notice throughout the different ones where it's like, oh yeah, they're using this set and they probably did it in this timeline of the schedule, and they're using this space because they don't need it much for that episode, or they don't use this episode, they don't use this set a lot.
Anything else you want to say about Runaway?
I will say that it connects nicely to the arc that Tilly is going on overall, like her overarching thing of gaining more confidence and like inner strength, and how each person that she's encountering along this journey is helping to teach her something about herself.
How does Runaway succeed at doing that? How is it beneficial in a positive way of that journey? Because I'm struggling to see it as it succeeding at that. But how does it for you?
Oh, it doesn't succeed. It just attempts to. It connects. I didn't mean to say that like they do a great job of that, but
you appreciated the attempt at it than the lack of any attempt at developing it.
Like
it's a good foundation to lift off for the second season of her character journey, more so than it actually succeeding in its own individual story.
It doesn't add anything, because it is basically the same thing that she has with Michael during one of the episodes, when like the episode starts with them running. And then Tilly realizes that she needs to find her own way.
That episode when she had a character arc off screen? Yeah, it was great. But goddamn, I've said this, I do not like having to have watched some random supplemental material or read a fucking book or be on fucking Fortnite or some bullshit for an event to understand elements of the story of the main story. Because again, because I'm not in America, I didn't get as heavily advertised about these short treks. So I didn't know short treks existed. So I was removed from certain aspects of the season 2 story, not by my choice, but by the choice of the people who created the show, because evidently it wasn't important enough to introduce or like incorporate Poe into the story of season 2 earlier, but later to bring her back. So we'll have a short trek in which we introduce her, and we'll treat it as if you've seen her before. Now, I don't mind introducing a character in short trek and bringing them back, but be acknowledging of the fact that people, not all people, are going to sit down and watch short trek. They're going to watch season 1 and then go straight to season 2. You should kind of acknowledge that. They did that with other Star Treks in the past when they bring a character like Reg Barclay onto Voyager. Yeah, people know Reg, but they're going to introduce Reg into Voyager. They're going to have ways of making him his own style of character in that setting. Yes, there's a level of you know who Reg is, but they are also, in regards many ways, reintroducing him for an audience who may not have seen that character. And Reg is I'm using Reg as an example because he's far more well known of a character, especially in the 90s, than Poe is as a character in Star Trek Discovery's landscape.
You're rocking a little taller, Poe. You're gonna be a great queen.
The second one was Calypso. Calypso is the one that is set 1,000 years, presumably, in the future. I don't know how this one sits now with where season 3 is going and at. We're not going to really discuss too much of season 3, as we don't want to spoil it. It's still airing, and we may not be up to date with it as this episode comes out. So, for the time being, Calypso set 1,000 years in the future of wherever, and it is an episode in which a man is stranded in an escape pod. The Discovery ship finds him, brings him in, heals him, and the ship itself is now a sentient AI that has fallen in love with him or has an affection for him, but he has a wife and kid that he must return to. The future seems like a weird, nasty place. They have a whole thing about names and what names mean, and giving names and getting names, and that stuff was interesting, and I liked that they didn't hammer it in my face as strongly as I was expecting. Calypso is, to me, the best example of what you could do with short trek format. It was a self-contained, interesting little sci-fi story set in the universe of not Star Trek, but Star Trek Discovery as well. Like, it felt like this is a short trek. This is what I was expecting. This is what I want from this. It didn't feel like unnecessary fluff. It felt just like someone had an interesting little sci-fi idea that they wanted to put on screen. It didn't deserve to be a whole episode. Here it is as just a little 15-minute short film. And I enjoyed it. I liked Calypso. I think Calypso is my favorite short trek. So it goes from my least favorite to my favorite short trek. I thought it was great. I thought the acting was really good. I liked that they kept to the limitations of the budget. And to me, there was no real irksome or off-putting moments. I actually stopped writing notes because there wasn't really much to write note-wise about it because of its length. It was a very solid sci-fi romance story. It reminded me of WALL-E. It reminded me of some other sci-fi stories where they not be romance-based, but more like, what was that one we watched, Rachel? The Netflix Australian one, like I Am Mother or something. It reminded me of that. It reminded me of those kind of little things. It reminded me of Moon in some regards. And Calypso, it was good. If this was short treks, then I'd be really excited to see more. How did you feel about Calypso?
I enjoyed it as well. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much as you, but I would also say that it was the one that I thought was the best out of the 4. But I think I may have enjoyed the Harry Mudd one a little bit more. But that is mainly just because Rainn Wilson is having so much fun with that one.
Yeah, that one.
But
that one is unabashedly just a comedy skit piece, while this one has moments of levity, but it's going for a little bit more than just being a fun little detour.
But we did get to the end of the episode, and I was like, why is it called Calypso?
Why is it called Calypso?
So I had to Google. Do you want to know what it's about?
Calypso?
Yes.
Is it about spirits?
Kind of. So Calypso was the goddess nymph of the mythical island and a daughter of a titan. She detained the hero Odysseus for many years in the course of his wanderings after the fall of Troy, but was eventually commanded by Zeus to release him.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't fully line up because that sounds like Calypso was kind of more of a antagonistic figure.
Yeah.
But Zora in this wasn't so much an antagonist.
No, and it was,
she was
her choice to let him go, but it follows those beats of that myth.
So you didn't mind Calypso? It was an alright time? You didn't like that they brought one of your favorite films into this, Funny Face.
Yeah.
You were like, Funny Face, don't you fucking touch that. Don't you leave it. Like, that's me with Star Trek and Star Trek Discovery. Spock, leave Spock out of this. And you're like, Funny Face, don't touch it, Discovery. That's my film. I can't even see the dance number properly because you got it as a hollow projection. let me. You were
It's
like, let me just
weird.
watch the film. I just.
It was also my reaction to that was very petty. I will admit that just straight off
It's
the bat.
fair. It's fair to
Um,
be petty.
because I do have a connection to that film, but also because a very similar kind of thing is done in an episode of Gilmore Girls.
It's also done in Wall-E.
Yeah, and in Wall-E, but specifically in the episode of Gilmore Girls, it's like a surprise date night that Christopher takes Lorelai on, and then they watch Funny Face on the side of a barn.
Okay,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a very romantic gesture.
Mm.
And in this
I
one,
doubt
she's
that the writers watched that episode of Gilmore Girls and they were like, let's fucking take it.
no.
I would love it if they did. How would this show be if it was written by the people who did Gilmore Girls? The characters would speak just as fast.
Mhm.
Oh no, did you go to the doctor?
Yes, he says I have tinnitus. I looked it up on the web at Celebrities Who Share Your Disease and found that William Shatner is likewise afflicted.
Really? Kirk and Captain Kirk?
The irony wasn't lost on me.
You know what I would have liked? 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes, and instead of the montage that they have of him playing chess and eating food where there's multiple of him, in that 5 minutes, don't have it be that kind of montage. Extend their relationship building up over time. Because I liked their chemistry. She's just a voice and he's reacting to it. But I kind of wish that there was at least 5 more minutes of interactions between them. So that way when the ending comes along, I felt a little bit more of an oomph for them. Because, just 5 minutes. Because I understood the constraints. It's a short.
Yeah.
But I just wanted a little bit more of them kind of getting those feelings for one another, which that little montage of him spending time there and all that was demonstrating. I'm not saying that didn't succeed at that, but I would have liked a little bit more because I like their romance, but I felt like it needed more meat on the bones there, and I was just 5 minutes. Give me more of them falling in love.
Yeah, and I think we both really enjoy the film Her, where we have seen this idea of a human falling in love with an AI that is highly evolved. And obviously Her explores that in a very different way, but we have engaged in media that explores that idea.
Even other Star Trek stuff with people fall in love with holograms
all
and
of the
interactions
fucking time. Holo addiction is its
or
whole other
falling
thing.
in love with Data and just 5 minutes. That's my big complaint with Calypso. Everything else
a little bit deeper.
Oh no, I have one technical complaint, and this is in all of the short treks for some unknown reason. Of these 4, why do they want to give me epilepsy?
The editing in
The
pretty much
random-
all of them is atrocious, in my opinion.
Well, in that specific regard, I thought the editing otherwise in this specific one was fine, but the random cuts to black
the
screen interjection where the flashing
and the flipping
it was too much. I don't think
the
we
decisions
needed
with
it.
mixing and music in all of them, I think detracts further from what they're trying to do. There were so many times where I just shut my eyes and looked away because the editing
it was too much.
It was so abrasive to me.
I only have a few weaknesses with it, but I think Calypso is a strong entry into the possibilities you could have with this format and this idea. I thought he was an interesting character. I liked her. I have a soft spot for those kind of love stories in this regard as well. I like the design of her on the ship with the little sound wave. It was cute. I thought it was a really well done idea, executed perfectly.
Out nicely.
Yeah, I thought it was executed perfectly in the regards of what it is. A few little things here and there, but those little things, they don't drag it down for me enough to really give it anything negative as a proper, improve those things next time. talking about next time. Next one of the short treks was the Saru prequel story, which I cannot remember the name of for the
I
life of me.
believe it is called Bright Star.
Short Treks continues with The Brightest Star on December 6th on CBS All Access.
Or The Brightest Star.
Short Treks continues with The Brightest Star on December 6th on CBS All Access.
Yeah, something like that.
What's it about, Rach?
It's about Saru heading off to Starfleet.
Well, when you say it like that, it's about Saru on his home planet and he gets in contact with Starfleet.
Yeah.
And that's it. So the fourth one...
This one does stand out in a few different ways because it is the prequel one.
Yes.
Out of 4 of them. And it is centered to Saru's narration, which it appears to be like obviously him talking to somebody and talking through
doing a
that
log or
time in
something,
his
yeah.
life and what that was like for him, and we're seeing kind of it actually play out. It's not played as if it's like his memories. It's played as if we've jumped to that point in time and we're getting his thoughts on the future reflecting.
What did you think of it?
I don't know.
What did you like about it?
I liked more Doug Jones. I did like that. I liked the way that they adjusted his prosthetics to make him look younger.
Yeah, that was good. It wasn't too overt, but it was well enough. I don't know. I don't like the female designs of Kelpians very much. I don't know. Maybe it's just his sister. Every time I see her, she looks too much like a bird to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't like the way that...
Too smooth. I guess it's because she's a girl. They got to be more feminine and smooth and cute.
Like, I get that decision.
Like, I want to fuck her. Is that what they want? They want people to be like, sexy Kelpian. She's smooth. Yum, yum.
Just like the reinforcement of they're called Kelpians because they live off kelp.
Did you get it?
Did you get it?
Did you get it, Rachel? They live off kelp.
I didn't like...
We live off Hugh. Where's Hugh's prequel short trek in which it's about him getting a character?
Hey, I'm trying to complain here. Come on. I was about to say that I don't like the way that Saru's sister has that kind of like line that goes like down her neck.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that
like
too.
towards her chest, and just the way that particular one was done and the lighting just made it look like it had been slashed and stitched up.
Well, maybe someone slashed her. I didn't like this one very much. I thought it was
bland is a word that I would use for it.
Well, a lot of it was clearly shot in the day, and they did day for night, which never looks good.
No, and that's not the way that we actually see Saru's planet later. Like,
it's a lot. It's a lot of choices made in this one.
If it was just like the blue planet more so, then we would still hate the look of it, but it would make a bit more sense.
I don't mind an idea of seeing a little prequel story of Saru. I don't have as big of an issue with it as some other people do. Like, I get it. It is convenient, though. A piece of it fell off, as they often do. And it just happens to be a piece that Saru can tinker with and type messages up to space.
Dad never follows up on it, even though his dad is continually suspicious and annoyed by Saru's questioning.
But I don't mind the idea of seeing a little prequel about how a Kelpian, a race we don't know, and all we know about them is they are basically slaves to another race, is somehow a member of Starfleet. I don't mind that idea, and it's okay. My thing is, did we need... I know the answer is yes, because people need this, but I'm thinking from my point of view, did we need audio? this felt like it could have been told as a silent short. I'm thinking really cerebral here, but all his narration, all it did was tell me what I was already witnessing, and it was perfunctory and unnecessary. Like, yeah, you need the dialogue from his sister and from his father, but I could actually see this being reworked as a purely visual story being told and no dialogue necessarily needed. Have some music over it, have maybe some occasional noises, maybe dialogue comes in when the translator stuff happens at the end. That could have been a nice little moment of, like, no sound than sound.
I saw hope in the stars. It was stronger than fear.
I think it could have worked better as a visually told story. For the time being, it isn't. The narration is very stupid, in my opinion. It doesn't need to be there. Outside of the narration, the father, he's your typical religious, stay in the lane kind of character.
Don't do that.
He feels like a Stephen King character escaped and somehow got into the Star Trek universe. Am I right?
Oh my gosh, yes!
Yeah, you always wonder what happened to Carrie's father. He ran away and became a Kelpian, I bet, because the mother and fucking Carrie's a weird religious nut job, and I imagine it's him, he's the dad. But it was fine, but I think in the short tracks, every odd-numbered one, like the films, are the weaker ones to me. I found this one like, okay, cool, we got a story. This one does benefit, though, of I didn't need to see this to understand the episode about Saru's people, because that episode did the job that I was saying about before, where it told its story in a way where it didn't rely on me having seen a piece of supplemental material that wasn't heavily advertised internationally. So I do appreciate that this one doesn't have that element to it. Like, if I didn't see this one and I didn't feel lost about the Kelpian civilization, this one doesn't add so much about the Kelpians either. Like, it adds enough for you to go, okay, look, that's interesting. Like, what's that piece of technology about? What's the sacrifices about? Like, it's an interesting little hook of where are we going to go with that? And we do know where they go with that. And as a setup to that little mystery plot, it's actually done fairly well. Like in terms of, like, it got me interested, even though I know where it's gonna go. If I saw this at the time, it would have piqued my interest a little bit and going, oh, that's interesting. Okay,
yeah, like,
what's that about?
With the exception of the first one, the other three for me work if you've watched them before or after watching even season 1. Like, if you just caught one of these, it would kind of give you an idea of the world and the setup. Like,
it serves what it does, which is a little appetizer between meals. Yum yum. You look so proud. Did you have a favorite moment from this one, though? Like, at least in the first one, I kind of did like how the goofy it was that they ripped up the cafeteria. I thought it was funny. But
kind of fake food fight.
This one, there wasn't really anything there wasn't a moment where I was like, that was great. I like that scene or moment.
I did like seeing Saru say goodbye to his sister. I did genuinely like that moment.
That's okay. I didn't care. Maybe because, again,
that's fair.
I am clouded because when I see his sister, I'm like, she's gonna, again, spoilers up, but she's going to manage to organize her fucking race to fly spaceships and fight in the matter of like a week. I can't help but when I see her think about that and go, how stupid that is.
You have learned to pilot a fighter.
Episode 4, The Escape Artist, directed by Rainn Wilson himself. I was pleasantly surprised to see that at the very end of this one. So this one is a story about what Harry Mudd gets up to. Yeah. Harry Mudd's doing stuff. I don't remember if this one is necessarily taken where it takes place in the timeline of things. Is Harry Mudd after the events of Discovery or before or what?
I think it's after, because they mention the space whale.
And one count of
penetrating a space whale?
You kind of had to be there.
I liked it. It was. I could see why you probably liked it more than I did. I just liked the Calypso one more on pure sci-fi level, but this one for comedy sake, I found it funny. I found it stylish. I found Rainn Wilson captivating as Harry Mudd yet again. I didn't have any complaints about this one, other than didn't really care for the disco motif thing as much as they may have wanted me to, but.
Yeah.
It was fine. It didn't make me roll my eyes or groan or anything. It was just kind of like when it happened, each time I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, that's a choice. Like, it took me out of it. It made me go, oh, that was a choice someone made, instead of just me watching it like I was with the rest of it. With the rest of it, I was engrossed. I was laughing. I actually laughed. I really did like the running gags of each time he was talking about, like, I've never been in a situation like this. And then it cuts back to different situations with different people.
He's using the exact same script. Because, like, not only is he the kind of person where he would have something prepared and that he's gone through it, but just the fact that, you know, each time he would have refined it a little bit more, and it's gotten to the point where it's like this exact thing beat for beat.
Yeah.
Every time he's captured by somebody and trying to get out of it.
Well, maybe I have been falsely accused once or twice.
That's the thing about these short treks, is they're very simple, very easy. This one, I felt like they really put in a lot of effort. There's lots of cool alien designs and makeup. There's lots of different set locations. It isn't just the ship. There's different areas, but also Rainn Wilson really put in the effort direction-wise. There was lots of interesting camera moves, lots of interesting editing choices, acting choices that didn't feel necessarily 100% in line with the Star Trek Discovery aesthetic. Like, yes, it had the aesthetic, but it felt as if there was a unique creative voice behind this one in comparison.
Yeah, I agree. And I enjoyed that this one builds on the world of Discovery, but it doesn't plagiarize other Star Treks to do it.
It homages.
But it's not like we have seen this exact same thing in other Star Treks. It's like, this is Discovery's version of Harry Mudd, and this makes sense for him, and it makes sense in only this format.
Yeah. I like Rainn Wilson is a charming guy. He is very funny, and evidently he's very good at direction. I don't know if I've seen other stuff he's directed. Probably, he's probably directed other TV episodes, but I found his direction very stylish. I thought he did a really good job with the other actors in the episodes too, in the episode as well, because the Tellarite guy and the Starfleet officers, they were playing the right level of being silly for it being a comedic story, but still playing it dramatically enough for it to still be the universe of Star Trek, like we've seen many times in Star Trek. Like, Captain Picard can be a silly character sometimes, but he's still grounded. And it could have been easy for Rainn Wilson, director-wise, to play this off as, oh, this is a comedy, so we don't have to take anything seriously. But in this, there were the right amount of moments in which they put the foot was put down and was like, no, play this a little bit more seriously here, and play it a little bit more broadly and comedically here.
Yeah.
Right level for me.
So that it was varied, so it didn't feel flat. Everything is kind of mixed up and played around with. And I enjoyed a lot of, like, the smaller decisions.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed when, like, the doors open up to the storage closet to see all of the androids.
All the Harry Mudds, and one of them's, they're all dressed with, like, similar outfits we've seen in the original series. Yeah. And,
But I liked what I was like, One of them's missing an arm. Why is one of them missing an arm?
And then we find out very quickly why one of them's missing an arm, because
Yeah.
someone probably did the exact same thing the one we get to see happen to. It's great.
Yeah, and why would they bother fixing it? They would just chuck his arm and him in the storage closet.
Harry Mudd somehow is a great enough cyberneticist to make androids of himself by scratch.
Just programmed enough to get him by.
Like I understand that, but what I mean is Harry Mudd's a cyberneticist now. Like in the original series, he had to go to an alien planet that had that technology and they were limited, and then he's trapped there with, you know, his screeching harpy wife and all of that, his beloved Stella. And it made sense in that episode. And I'm not going to lose a brain, like, I'm not going to lose it over the fact that this one brings that homage. It's a homage. It's incorporating that idea, but it does, you know, again, this Harry Mudd is very different, not just performance-wise, but choice-wise. Like this one, they read off his roster of crimes and so many murders or murder attempts. And I swear to you, in the original series, they read off all of Harry Mudd's crimes, and I don't think attempted murders or murdering was in any of them, but maybe there weren't, I've just forgotten.
Offense record, smuggling, sentence, suspended, transport of stolen goods, purchase of space vessel with counterfeit currency, sentences, psychiatric treatment, effectiveness disputed.
You make the point, too, that they're very limited, and that, again, feeds into the original series, where those ones are very limited as well. But again, in that episode, they had a specific point made that was a specific area. Harry Mudd just doesn't know how to create androids willy-nilly. But I guess in this universe, Harry Mudd is one of the most proficient cyberneticists in all of existence at this time, but he wastes it on being a fucking criminal loser. Like, isn't that really funny to think about?
Yeah.
Like, Harry Mudd could be legitimately a brilliant guy in the world of science, but he wastes it being a petty criminal.
I had the androids construct a perfect replica of Stella so that I could gaze upon her and rejoice in her absence.
This one had a twist. The others didn't have any twists.
No.
They were just... I didn't see the twist if it was a android Harry Mudd, and that this was a scheme going on from the...
I figured that
once
it was a scheme.
Well, I thought that... See, I didn't figure it was a scheme necessarily. I figured that this was legit, and we were going to watch how Harry Mudd actually does escape from these situations. Like, I got lured in by the title, The Escape Artist. I thought, and we do see that. That's technically what we see. Like, Harry Mudd, the real one, has sent fake versions of himself to distract people, which is, I like it. I didn't see the twist coming that it was going to be a robo Harry Mudd.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought that it was going to be, I was like, it's either going to be Harry himself or maybe Stella in the suit, and like maybe he's corrupted Stella.
She's easily misguided. Yeah. But I thought it was a jolly good time. I thought it was pretty good. That and Calypso, I can see the merits of this being something that could easily work.
Agreed.
Do they deserve to be $30 on their own as DVDs and Blu-rays?
Fuck no.
Fuck no. They deserve to be special features on the Season 1 Blu-ray. Or Season 2, if you want to be better about it. Like here in Australia, they cost a shit ton of money to buy these Blu-rays for all these DVDs for the short tracks. As
fuck
much
off with that shit.
Bullshit. They fuck that.
Sheer fucking hubris.
What would you give Short Trek Season 1 as a whole? A yum or a yum yum?
I know it's hard because I did enjoy 2 of them, but I didn't enjoy the other 2. I'm going to be generous and go yum yum.
Yum yum.
I'm going to be very generous too. I think it's a yum yum as well. I enjoyed 2 of them as well. And the 2 that I didn't enjoy didn't infuriate me, didn't make me head scratching. I didn't find it as aggressive as I was expecting. You know, the Runaway one, I'll never want to see again ever in my life. But I thought that the core of what the idea of short treks could be was presented well enough for me to be curious of seeing more of this. I give it a yum yum.
Yum yum.
I would love if down the road they brought in more abstract sci-fi writers like your Neil Gaimans and so on and so forth to come in and just do a little short trek script, get more unique voices and weird people involved, and just get weirder with it and get more blatantly sci-fi shorts with it. I think it would be really fun if down the road they did bring in cool writers that are good at writing shorts and writing sci-fi shorts in particular, or sci-fi fantasy shorts. I reckon, you could even get people who, like, it reminds me of in Doctor Who, right? The British, the redo of Doctor Who, how they would get people like Neil Gaiman in and whatever to do random episodes here and there, and those episodes had really unique voices to them in comparison to other episodes. I kind of wish that the short treks, like this Rainn Wilson one at the end, each one had a more specifically unique voice with each one, instead of feeling so much like they have to oblige to the general aesthetic of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Like, I understand with the Runaway one, but the others, I felt like they could have really pushed harder into having each one, letting them have more of a unique identity to them.
Yeah. See, I really like that idea too, but I have trouble entertaining the thought because I'm just so cynical about CBS wanting to invest in creativity because it, to me, my brain goes, okay, well, they wanted to do a Harry Mudd thing, and then Rainn Wilson was like, on these conditions,
I'll direct it, and I want to have multiple me's.
And I think he co-wrote it as well.
Yeah, I think him and the guy who's done Lower Decks wrote this, so...
Yeah, and that would line up with what we know about Lower Decks at this stage, because we haven't watched it.
One day we'll see it.
But yeah, like, it just doesn't feel like it would be something that CBS would do, would take a gamble on an interesting idea. But possible signs of that are in this, particularly with Calypso, because that's not attached to anybody who would have pushed for that. Like, Rainn Wilson obviously had a creative vision of some sort and input into that.
And he was like, I want to be Harry Mudd again.
Yeah.
Let me do it.
And whether that was like them asking him or him saying that he wanted to do it. And Calypso stands on its own as like them being like, we have this idea.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would probably watch a feature-length film of that idea.
So next week we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 1, Brother. The IMDb description for this one goes as such. The crew of the USS Discovery joins forces with Captain Pike to unravel the mystery of 7 mysterious red signals that have appeared across the universe. So that's right, Season 2, baby. So make sure, you people out there, that you're following us on all those social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look up YumYumPod. Make sure you're subscribed and following us on whatever podcatcher allows us and you, because
engage with the Yum Yum.
Engage with the Yum Yum. Embrace the Yum Yum, because we are going into Season 2, baby. The season that inspired us to want to talk about Star Trek Discovery at all. Will it improve? Will it get worse? Will it still be the same amount? Who knows? Come join us, won't you, as we talk about the yummiest Yum Yum season of all Star Trek.
How
Star
many
Trek
times
Discovery
will Rachel
Season
threaten
2?
to quit?
How many times will I bring up Yum Yum? Who knows?
Countless.